Alright, we're going to get started on this rebuild. I have all the parts, I got everything, I got the block painted, I got it cleaned up, it's nice and oiled on the inside. I'm going to start first with putting in the main bearings and get the crankshaft in, and I'll show those in a second. And Plastigauge, check all the clearances, and then go ahead and install them. Then move on to the pistons, check those clearances, and get those installed with the rings. We'll wait to see how far I get in this video before I break it. I'll probably split off after I do the crankshaft and get that in here and get all the bearing clearances. Then maybe set up the pistons and do that separately with all the rings and get those installed. So let's get started on the main block and the crankshaft. All right, I mentioned previously that I'm using Engine Tech. I got this from the machine shop, all the parts and everything. Again, the crankshaft was polished. It's looking pretty good. And ground down. I had a couple of ridges and ruts in there, so it is 10 under is what it should be. And so these are supposed to be 10 under bearings. So this is the Engine Tech number there if anybody's following along. So these are 10 under. I'm going to go ahead and get these all wiped down with some mineral spirits, and then get the crankshaft, wipe that down, and get that set in, and start measuring the clearances. So I'm wiping these down one by one. This is the thrust bearing. This is the lower one. It's hard to mess this up because there's a little angle there, and that fits in right in there. So thrust bearing goes on number 3 here. And then the tang is right there, goes right in that notch. Okay, that's all the main bearings there, and all the oil holes line up there. So I think we're all set. I'm going to go ahead and set the crank, wipe the crank journals down, and get the crank set in here. Alright, crank is in. The bearing caps here are pretty straightforward. You got a 7 there, and it can only go one way on the end here, so just 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So it's hard to get them mixed up or turned around anyway. And again, this is number 3. This is where the thrust bearing goes. It looks a little bit different on those edges than this one here. So again, it kind of keeps them straight. That's number 3. All right, all the upper bearings are wiped down. I just did kind of a quick wipe down with some mineral spirits. And these will get snapped in the same way. There's a tang on the top of the bearing cap, And right there, so these are just get snapped in the same way. That's pretty much it. So I'm going to do number 4 first and check it out. I got the bearing in there. I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of oil, just regular. I think I'm just going to use my regular break-in oil a little bit. Just a little bit on the head here as I torque it down. All right, we're going to set this right on top. Install the bearing cap. Going to torque this down to 80 foot-pounds. Going to do it in 3 stages, 25, 55, and 80. All right, now we're going to take it off. It's a pretty noticeable line there. So it should be between 1 and 125. So the white middle part there is right there, that center part, that's 1.5. And it is just a hair smaller than 1.5. And I had asked somebody about this, why not put them all in, tighten them all down with a Plastigauge, then pull them all off. And somebody made a good point that if you tighten this one down, then you tighten down some of the others, it could mess with this reading right here because it is going to jostle the crankshaft around a little bit up and down. So it's better just to do one at a time. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to work my way out. Oh, that one looks good too. There we go. Oops. Make sure we're looking at the right scale. Yep, that's right on the money. Yep, good there. Yep, all is good with the main bearings. Now I just need to wipe off the Plastigauge, pull the crank out, get some assembly lube in there, and torque down again. Again, I'm going to do 25, 55, 80. There's probably various things there, but the 3-stage I think works pretty well. And so I don't forget, when I put the crankshaft in, I want to go ahead and get the rear main seal in there as well. Placed in. You can always slide it in, kind of like if it's installed, you just push it around and curve it around the back area there. But I want to make sure that I get it in now. So I did get this kit, and it's a 260-1134 Felpro. It comes with all the different gaskets, the rear main seal. It comes with the oil pan gasket, head gasket, intake, exhaust, fuel pump, and a couple other things. Anyway, that's the number for this. So if you're looking to do a rebuild, this may be a more economical way to go. There's the rear main seal that came from the kit. It looks exactly the same as what I had bought when I replaced it a couple of years ago, kind of separately. And the rear main seal, again, is kind of easy not to get wrong. There's those little notches right there in the top of the main bearing cap. And then so you can just kind of line that up and make sure you get it to the right orientation as it goes into the block here. So we know that that's going to go just like that. I'm going to clean this off with a little bit of acetone, just those surfaces right there, and also on the main bearing cap. What I'm trying to do is make a clean surface for the two halves of the rear main seal to connect. I'm going to put some black RTV just a little bit there just to seal up the connection between them. They recommend that. As far as assembly lube, I'm going to go ahead and use this Stay Lube. I watch a lot of Uncle Tony's Garage videos, and he said people are always dropping this off. Not what he recommends or anything, but people are always bringing assembly lube over, working on projects in his garage. They leave it there, so he ends up using a lot of this, and he's like, yeah, he just uses it, and it's perfectly fine. So, and also I looked on Amazon, ton of great reviews. Again, I don't think it matters too much. It's assembly lube. I'm not sure how much each brand really matters, just as long as you can get something in there that's really made for that purpose. I kind of feel the same way about startup or break-in oil. I saw a lot of brands, read a lot of reviews, and I got the Lucas break-in oil. I got this here. It was relatively inexpensive. It's high zinc, it's break-in, it's made for that purpose, so I don't think it matters too much. So we're going to lube up these bearings pretty well. And we're going to set the crank inside. Make sure to put some on the thrust bearings on this outside. And just put a tiny bit on the inside of that rear main seal. Just to lube that up a little bit. This rear main seal is the probably #1 most common leak area on these engines, so really hoping that it holds up. What's this called? Ultra Black RTV for oil. Can put a little bit of that on those mating surfaces, but not too much because I don't want to mess up the clearances. Oh yeah, really smooth. Very nice. And this is where the trouble began. I checked it a couple different ways and put my dial indicator on there, and I was getting zero, basically zero end play. So I knew I was going to have to pull it apart and go ahead and take some material off that thrust bearing.